Hello everyone, welcome to Chapter 1 of Financial Accounting. Okay, so what we're going to talk about here in Chapter 1 is we are going to talk about just the basics of what financial accounting is all about. One of the first things that we're going to talk about in this chapter is the accounting process. And basically what the accounting process is taking all of the financial business transactions and actually recording them in a set of books and records. And there are formal names for all of these various books and records that we will learn along the way. And basically, it's just a nice format, recording these transactions in these books and records so decision makers can make the appropriate decisions. Now, who are the decision makers? They could be the CEO, the CFO, it could be potential investors, it could be bankers if they want to lend money to the company. So there are all sorts of decision makers. And as you can see, it's just a process. We take the economic activity, which is basically the business transactions, and we will record them in accounting information. And then, of course, decisions are made. All right? And it's an ongoing loop. This is called the accounting cycle. Okay, the types of accounting information that are out there are either financially related, managerial related, or tax related. There are all sorts of accounting classes that you can take in regards to financial accounting, managerial accounting, and tax accounting. In this particular class, we're going to concentrate on financial accounting. We're going to talk about summarizing all of the business transactions and creating what is known as financial statements. That's basically the summary of the books and records that I talked about a few minutes ago. And that's what we're going to concentrate on in this class. In today's day and age, everything is computerized, so every company will set up an accounting system. The accounting system includes not only the computerized books and the automated books and records, but everything that stems from it. Personnel records, procedural records, basically anything associated with the finances of an organization. That makes up the global accounting system. Of course, we're going to concentrate on the accounting system itself, not so much in HR or finance or economics. We're going to concentrate on the accounting. All right, and as I said to you a few minutes ago, there are lots of information and a lot of users of the overall global information system. As you see on the left, who are the users of accounting data? Well, it could be investors, current investors of the company, or potential investors of the company. They like to review the financial records to see how well or how poorly the company is doing. Creditors. Obviously, if there's a bank that gave a loan to the organization, they're going to want to see how well the company is doing financially. Managers, a lot of internal managers within the company, they get to use the financial information to make decisions. As an example, maybe the head of HR is going to make a decision whether we should hire more people. Maybe the production plant is going to decide, should we produce more or should we cut back on production based on how well sales have been in certain areas. Owners of the company, customers, even customers might want to take a peek at the financial records to see how healthy the organization is. Employees, potentially. And of course, any regulators, the SEC, which is the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the IRS and the FTC. All right, these are basically federal organizations from the federal government that have an opportunity to oversee some of these companies. All right, and what are they looking at? Of course, all of these users are looking at profitability. Are they profitable? Are they actually making money? What is the financial position? That's basically assets and liabilities. How does it look? And then, of course, cash flow. We can turn a profit, but we may not have a lot of cash flow. And as the chapters go on, I will explain that in further detail. It is very possible, let me just make this statement right now. It is very possible for a company to be profitable, but actually not have cash flow. We can keep selling and selling and selling, but we might have a problem collecting from our customers. And like I said, I will explain that in further detail as the chapters go on. Okay. So, one of the items we need to talk about before we get into the actual accounting is this concept of internal control. Basically, internal control is a company's way of combating any fraud. And we want to make sure we come up with procedures in order to combat that fraud. And you can see here there are 5 certain categories that are considered the key components of an internal control system. And by the way, when an auditor audits the financial statements of an organization, they always look at the internal control system as well. And an auditor will always tell you that the stronger the internal control system is, the more likely that the financial statements are free of any material misstatements. So it goes hand in hand. So we want to concentrate on building our internal control systems. Let me give you some examples, and we're going to get into this more in later chapters. But as an example, we can have physical controls, like putting locks on doors, giving everyone an ID badge, having that ID badge allow you to enter certain areas of the building. What are some other internal controls? It could be a financial control, like we do bank reconciliations on a monthly basis to make sure that the bank records are okay. Whenever we receive a shipment of inventory in the back warehouse, we are actually logging in that inventory. We're making sure it's getting to the shelf. Somebody else is doing the paperwork. All right, so these are examples of internal control, and there are tons and tons of control procedures that organizations can put together. All right, we talked about that a little bit. All right, and what we're going to concentrate on in this course is the external financial reports. The external financial reports, really briefly here, and we're going to talk about this in depth as the course goes on. We have number 1, we have something called the balance sheet. Number 2, we have another statement called the income statement. Number 3, we have something called the stockholders' equity statement. And number 4, we have a cash flow statement. And those are the 4 financial statements by the end of this course you're going to be able to put together. The balance sheet, the income statement, and the cash flow statement. And as I said a few seconds ago, I will add one more to this list, the stockholders' equity statement. Those are the primary financial statements. And what do these financial statements do? These financial statements basically paint the financial picture of the organization for external users, whether it's the SEC or the IRS or the bank or potential investors. Every organization obviously needs to be organized. And what you see here, and you've seen examples of this, you probably work in a place that has some sort of org chart that looks fairly similar. Whenever we're dealing with a corporation, the owners or the shareholders, they're in charge. They're the owners. And what the owners do is they vote for the board of directors. The board of directors, that would be the chairman, the president, the vice president, the treasurer, etc., they set general policy of the organization. They don't run the day-to-day operations, but they set policy. And what they do is they hire a CEO, a Chief Executive Officer, and they are the ones that are in charge of the day-to-day operations of the organization. And as you see here, this typical org chart, underneath the CEO, we're going to have different VPs for the different areas. Over here on the far right, you can see the CFO, the Chief Financial Officer, and underneath the CFO, we're going to have a treasurer, which really is control of the money management, if you will, the investing. But the controller is going to be the one that is in charge of the accounting records. And so that box right here, the controller, this is what I am teaching you in this particular class. I am teaching you all about the controller's job. And I know some of you might be thinking, I'm not an accountant. I don't want to be an accountant. I don't really care about accounting. But let me say this, and I'm going to explain this a little further in a few more minutes as well. As an executive, as a business owner, the more you know about the accounting and the flow of financial information, the more powerful you are going to be, the more knowledgeable you are going to be about the organization. And that's really what we're getting at here. I'm not training you to be a CPA. I'm not training you to be an accountant, but I certainly am trying to further your knowledge of business operations. And if you can understand the accounting, you're going to be that much more valuable in the workplace. Okay, I just wanted to go through this slide here. Ethics. Ethics is a big deal. Ethical behavior is the cornerstone of the accounting profession. Now, a lot of you might be thinking, there are some industries out there that are pretty, let me use the word shady, unethical. At least they have the connotation of being unethical organizations. What comes to mind? A used car salesman comes to mind. Heck, even salesmen in general come to mind. And for those of you that are salesmen, I apologize for that. But sometimes there's an unethical behavior about them so they can get that ultimate sale. Accountants tend to have the they have the reputation that they are honest, ethical people. All right, and obviously we want that to be. We want people to believe and trust in the financial records that we are preparing for use in making decisions. So certainly that is a very, very important piece. In accounting, you will find accountants in public accounting, CPA firms, that's what that is, and they basically work for their clients, whether it is audit, or tax, or just consulting in general. Management accounting, that is when the accountant works directly for the organization. That would include the CFO and the controllers of the world. And governmental accounting, these would be the accountants that work for different levels of government, and there are various levels of government. We have local city government, we have county, we have state, we have federal, we have special taxing districts in between. So there are plenty of governmental accounting jobs. And of course, accounting education. You can never get a business degree without learning accounting. So accounting education, there are plenty of opportunities as well. Okay, bookkeeping. And quite honestly, the first few chapters we're going to take a look at is going to work through the bookkeeping cycle, or the accounting cycle. Bookkeeping is the general clerical routine transactions, keeping track of them in the books and records. That's the first part of it. After that, and then the financial statements are prepared, then we analyze those financial statements to make decisions. That's where the CPAs come in. All right, so bookkeeping is more of the general routine preparation, but the accountants in using that information to make decisions, that is higher level. Okay, and like I said, let me end with this. Accounting is the language of business. And trying to run a business without understanding accounting information is analogous to trying to play sports without understanding the rules. Let me give you an idea. If you play baseball and you hit the ball and you see that you can run, do you run to first base or do you run to third base? If you don't know the rules, you may run to the wrong base, which, by the way, is third base. You need to know you have to run to the right. You have to run to first base before you circle the bases and get back home. If you didn't know the rules of baseball, how could you play? It's the same thing with business. How can you enter your business and run your business if you have no idea what the accounting is all about? Personally, me as a CPA, and I have clients that come to me at the end of the year with basically a stack of papers and receipts, and they're all out of order and they don't know what is what. Quite honestly, I always tell them, I have no idea how you made it through the year. They don't know what's going on financially. And that's a problem. It's very difficult to make decisions in that way. So I hope you understood, and you like this first chapter here as we introduce the course. We're going to get into some more details in the future chapters. Thanks for sticking with me.